So, gonna go through looking at the mapper today because someone had mentioned, I honestly cannot remember who, so I apologize for that, that they were curious about a video about the mapper, which I myself am curious as well. Because a lot of the use I've had with the mapper is in a certain type of setup, and I guess I'll just walk through that idea and essentially why I view it as at least my favorite module potentially, just because of the complexity that is involved in such a compact idea, or module. I guess it's an idea. They're both the same thing. Um, and also, because I'm looking at the spec right here, is the wave shaper has a 720-degree rotation. So that's two full rotations. And why that's important is how you can start to get really complex shading and angular color designs through the mapper. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to go straight, excuse me. Yes, that's right. We're going to go just straight, red to red. Remember my cadets upside down. G to G. And then blue to blue. So already you can see, so let's just get them all at center. And I have the older version. I don't know if there's any difference in terms of circuitry. So right now it's just black. So just moving the bottom one, we can get it gray. And this is, then in the middle one, we're just changing the gain. This is how you can get a lot more complex and denser colors, is just playing around with the whole gain stage setup that we have here. So, and essentially, this is just hue saturation, and then brightness into brightness, red and blue, red and Y. Yeah, it says red Y, blue Y, and RGB. So this is interesting because I have stackables right here. We don't even have anything in here. We're just really just trying to see what you can do in terms of colors. I mean, that's a pretty cool forest green. So let's just take the Y and go into red. Now we're getting this interesting orange color. So now let's just start patching waves into this. So we're going to go H, we're going to take this waveform. That is pretty sweet. So now let's modulate it with I want to modulate it with the staircase from a different prismatic ray. That's what I want to do. And we'll do the divide by 1. So prismatic ray, staircase, divide by 1, frequency modulation. Nice. Okay. So that's pretty good. We're just one in. Let's try it into the S. And so the full rotation right here is on the hue right here. So 1, 2. And so in between those rotations and then playing around with the S parameter, and then really I mess around with the brightness a lot. I mean, obviously, it's a very important thing, but with the color depth that is happening, sometimes it drastically changes. Even a simple move of the rotation, it will change a lot, and you really have to be cognizant in the moment sometimes. I mean, you're doing your thing. I totally get it. I'm there too, but it's something to be definitely aware of. Um, Especially if you modulate it. So, I mean, right now, I don't often do this. Let's just modulate it and see what happens. That's pretty sweet. Get these really cool three-dimensional kind of bars going on. But so we're just modulating the brightness. So let's just take this prismatic ray again, put it back into the hue, and okay. Let's get another waveform in here as well, just to complete it. And we're just going to go from the filter of number 3 and just take this sawtooth. And now there we go. So now that's what we're talking about, is the type of stuff you can do with the mapper. I know it was a little quiet right there, but I was just really contemplating again if I'm messing this thing up, because for me with the mapper, I just use it so much as my last stage out that it's just really, I'm just so used to playing it, but to like sit down and explain it, it's just a completely different thing, but I think is very important. So what just happened there is I have this waveform generator, which these older ones had, pretty sure, linear and exponential FM synth options, or FM synth, that's the FM modulation options. But there's some other options on there, and I think that's set up on here. That's why I can't get a full row, a bunch of lines. It's just one standard line. I have to look on the back, but the idea is still there. I'm using this waveform right here through the filter, which you can see I can create some of the shadowing. I'm not even using a ramp through it. And what I mean by the shadowing is, if I can point at it right, is left to right. It's almost as if it's curving down into it, which is a really cool effect. And with the mapper, as you manipulate different aspects or parameters, I should say, especially the gain. This is why I think it's so important. I view it in a way very much like I wouldn't even say like a single row, but it's like a single just set from the blending matrix where you have the full -1 to 1 option, and you just can't switch between 0 to 1. But I think that's a great idea, especially since you can do the full rotations of hue. And right here, we're just only taking one stackable out. Let's do another one and see what happens. We'll take the V into the blue. Now we get some cool colors. We get some good reds, some golds. And let's even take out this modulation point and put in this prismatic ray right here, which we are just running through the staircase. But let's just take its raw waveform. See if we can get anything there. See, now right here, again, it's using the filter and filtering in such a way, it now looks as if it is going down into a little cavern and then peeling back out, almost if you turned it 90 degrees this way. That'd be pretty interesting. It gives the perspective as if you are going into something. But that is, again, where with the mapper and the ability of the controlling, the hue saturate, you're taking the hue, saturation, and brightness and then converting it to brightness, red Y and blue Y and RGB. So then once you start using stackables on top of that, this is where you can get something really powerful. And in this case, using this waveform to essentially highlight it as if it's, some type of flashlight, which is a really cool effect too. If I was going to modulate that, I'll do that and then recap. Let's see. Exactly. Sorry about that. There we go. Now it's just like a moving pillar in some random dimension that you found. And you just don't know if it's turning or if it's elongating, and then it just kind of disappears. So it doesn't exist, or does it? I don't know. I think it does. Um, but so let's just recap really quick. So what we're doing is exploring the mapper. We're trying to get a better understanding of the whole idea of going from the hue, saturation, brightness right here to the brightness, and then red, blue, or red Y and blue Y, and then RGB. So what we did here is go from one prismatic ray here into the hue. So, and then right here it's being modulated by this staircase, the divided by 1, which is coming from this prismatic ray, which is going into the staircase. So that is the modulation point. Oh, what just happened here? Oh, that's right. My camera's adjusting and I got tripped out that there was no imagery there. That's my bad. So next up, into the, what is it, the saturation, we just went this raw prismatic ray into saturation, just nothing fancy about it, just straight ahead. And then lastly, we're taking the brightness, and how we're doing that is we're taking this waveform generator and going into the triple video multimode filter, which essentially is kind of like the curtain, and then we're going from there into the brightness. So then at that point we have these stackables right here. The stackables are just going RG to B to RG and B. But then I'm taking the brightness out into, what is that, the red. And then this one, which is the blue brightness, into blue right there. And then lastly, I was just using this triple video LFO to modulate this little pillar, so as if it was just kind of like a pillar that was moving left to right, but also you couldn't tell if it was spinning or rotating. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, I hope that provides some insight to it. I know I wasn't as spastic as I usually am during videos, but this is definitely something I'm going to start looking into more, is explaining the mapper and the complexity that it holds, because, I mean, you can kind of just go wild with this thing, especially, just change it out and just mix it around. All I'm doing is just changing the parameters in the mapper, and you can just see how powerful it is. Once you get a good foundational core of just waveforms and shapes going on, even this is really cool. It's endless. I'm not just gonna keep rambling, but thank you for watching. Any more questions? Let me know, or things you want to see. All right, enjoy.